All right, welcome to another Motivational Monday. I literally just jumped off the elliptical machine, and while I was on it, I'm thinking, you know what? One of the sections, one of the discussions we had in the private High Six Mastermind, which we host usually monthly unless it's an event month, where I and the other coach, Brian O'Neill, get with the High Six. One of the discussions, it was for approximately, I don't know, 13 minutes or so. It's not long. But it went along the lines of we have hot seats. And one of the associates said something about beating on themselves and comparing themselves to others because the community is aggressive and the high six community tends to be type A drivers, right? So we tend to compare ourselves. And it's not uncommon in business to go, well, they're having a success and I might not be having the same right now or as fast. And coincidentally, that same morning of the call, I had a call with one of our starter associates who said the same thing to me. She was beating on herself. And I said, look, and her name's not important, but I said, look, get yourself in a chamber. Worry about you, me, and your other coach, in this case, Steve. I said, the three of us are a trio, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. You compare yourself to your progress. Try to improve you. Try to improve next week from this week, but not anything else anyone else is doing. So enjoy this conversation here for this Motivational Monday. It's a chance for you to peer in to get an answer to this question to help yourself because it will come up in your career, in your journey, in your entrepreneurial shift to whatever you're going through. But most importantly, know that you can get around this community. You can get around this community by being at the Wicked Smart Sit Down every Thursday at 4 o'clock. It's free. You can get around this community by being at our annual events. As of the time you're watching this, you're probably coming up on one at the Wicked Smart Summit. Go to wickedsmartsummit.com. If you happen to be seeing this in the summer, get your butt to qlslive.com. Both of those events are in Newport, Rhode Island, and I'm telling you, they're game changers because you can get around these people. This is 13 minutes of a tiny bit of a hot seat, and you get a chance to hang out with them for 3 days. There's nothing like it. So enjoy the clip and hope to see you live at our next event.
I know Russell has talked about this where, everybody's path is different. But I feel like where I am now, it's hard for me not to think about it. Seeing all the take-ins posted on the main channel, I know that, I got to keep going, but on the other side of it, I find myself not to, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Compare.
Yeah, that's the word.
What was
Thank
it,
you,
Steve?
Steve.
Compare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Russell said, when he was, I guess at the beginning of his business, he was comparing himself to Brian. So I feel like I'm in a same position right now where I know everybody's path is different and I shouldn't be comparing myself to other associates, but I feel like it's hard not to do that.
It is. We're all type A. I'd like to hear from Brian because he's working with you too now, and I did a lot of blabbing last time. And then the other coaches, if they have thoughts, I will share with you guys this morning's call. Steve, the student shared two issues. One was that, and I said you got to get in a chamber, like it's you and you. And I actually said it's me, you, and Steve. That's what I said. I said we're a tag team. There's nobody else. It's great that you can look at that and set those bars, but your comparison, they're not you. They're not your lifestyle. They're not your goals. They're not your why. So who has a thought for Wendy on this? This is important. Almost every high six being a driver has this issue at some point.
I just have a few since you asked me. And Wendy, you're doing a tremendous job. I just want to announce that to you and publicly. Yep. I mean, you're just killing it. And what will happen for you, and I'm not trying to make a prediction here, but you will have a windfall, right? Because you're really great at filling the funnel. And when it does happen, it'll be a windfall. I think that it's okay to look at other people, but you have to do it in a healthy way. Like, don't compare in a negative way, but do it in a healthy way. Like, when I came into the community, I looked at the people who were doing all the deals, and I literally said to myself, I'm going to beat them out. So, but that may not be what everyone's doing. If I use it in a healthy way, I didn't say, well, I suck because I'm not doing deals.
Yeah.
Right. And then I just finished reading the book by David Goggins, Never Finished, which is a very intense book, by the way. And one of the huge takeaways from the book was that he doesn't compare himself to anybody. He competes with himself. Like, he's trying to beat out himself. He's not concerned with what other people are doing. I mean, nobody's really at his level anyways, but that's who he's competing against is himself. And Chris just alluded to that, you know, you got to get yourself in the chamber, in the tunnel.
Wendy, this might be a good question before whoever, Steve or Mike or Russ. This might be a great question. I'm thinking for someone to pose for Peter. Just a thought, and he may get to it.
Okay.
Okay, who else was going to help Wendy there? I thought someone was chiming in.
I was gonna say that, you know, there was a 2-year gap between my take-ins, but the floodgates opened, right? And it all came down to confidence. So I think what you're doing is you're setting a foundation with your number of calls, what you bring to every mastermind, what you do with Chris, with your accountability, or I think Brian now. You're setting that foundation and then once, because it's going to happen. I am very confident that once you get that taken, and just like what Mike said about getting that check, once you get that check, your confidence is just going to just go out the window, and it's going to be a floodgate. So just, you know, like I said, I told you, I was comparing myself to Brian. I was getting pissed. I pouted. I stopped calling for a while because I was like, this sucks because he's getting all these deals and I'm not. It was a real feeling. And then I started sending calls into Chris, and then the confidence started coming. Then I got it taken, and then it just kind of went from there. So yeah, just compare. I mean, if people are comparing, they should be comparing themselves to you as far as dials and your commitment.
Yep.
Perfectly said. What I would say, Wendy, too, in addition to that, I'll just go by how I kind of perceive this, and maybe it'll be relatable. Took me about, so if you're above like 6-7 months without a deal, I think we all go to a similar mental state, which is very difficult. That's where we start, like, all of our insecurities pop out, our doubts. It starts to really start to heighten at that point. But the realistic side, and I've said this before, but it's very important. There's always this, before your first deal, there's this imaginary line, right? And on the other side is your first deal, and on the other side is where you are today. And my first deal, I think it took me like 9.5 months or maybe 10 months. I felt farther away from getting a deal month 10 with all these skill sets than I did before I made a call. It's like our brains try to rationalize all these insecurities, why they're happening. Then we have this noise that we, Brian or Russell or Rick's getting all these deals. And then you're thinking like, all right, what do I have to do differently? And like Brian said, how to go ahead and use it as a power, right? Like if these people are doing deals, all right, let's do this then. Now that I have people around me who are doing something successful, let's get in their ear. Let's get surrounded by these people, see if they're doing anything differently. But when it comes to where you feel today, I feel like it's very, very normal that the highest amount of doubt and insecurities, but I'm doing everything I'm told. Like you're on the path of the traits of the people who are our best students. And every single time, Wendy, it ends in the same result. The timeline is different, but the result is the same. So I just want to make sure that you don't doubt what you're doing, because all you're doing is sharpening your skills for the opportunities that are about to come. And the fill in the funnel thing is, it took me until I got my first deal and maybe several months after to understand what filling the funnel is, like to really see people over time and just doing these touch bases that don't feel like a lot in the moment, right? Because we're right there and, they're not ready yet. They're not ready yet. But like if you've been watching Rick, his deals are starting to drip out. And all the work you're doing today, when you fill a funnel, you end up having deals that you were working on that you forgot about that come through. So all I want you to do is continue to trust what you're doing and know that you could not be in a better position than you are today, because you're doing everything you should be doing and you have the highest level of people helping you around. So just trust. As much as it's so hard to trust, the farther we go, just trust it's going to happen. I promise you.
This is good, Steve.
Thank you.
Wendy, I have a thought for you, but it's really for everyone too. And it's a reminder. It kind of goes along with that, the committing to the obnoxious, like I just spent $1 million thing and I won't quit. And I'm going to use someone's name in a minute because we were just texting each other before this call, and many of you don't know him. Some of you do. I'll relate that story in a minute. But if you knew, let me just ask you a question. I'll ask you, but I want everybody to think about it. If you knew that in 18 months from now that might be, holy shit, I just got done saying I'm ready for a deal. If you knew in 18 months from now, I'm just being general for everyone, you fill in the blank, that you could have, I'll use 2, but this gentleman was 3, 2 6-figure deals, let's say, owner financing, dead certain, would you be okay with the wait? I don't know the answer for you. I'm just use whatever number, if 4 is the number, because that's what Steve's kind of alluding to. But that's what happened to, raise your hand if you know, if you guys met Chad Heater before he had a life change. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. 5. Chad just texted me today. This is how the community is. Hey, Chris, my third, he left the community before any payday 3s. My third payday 3 is coming in the spring. My parents have Alzheimer's. We're just touching base because that's the way everyone is in this community. But I said, congrats on the payday 3. But it wasn't even a major part of the text. It was the beginning. My point is, he waited 360, I think it was 364 days for 3 deals, 2 over 6 figures and 1 just under 6 figures. Most people maybe would have stopped at day 300. I'm not telling you he wasn't frustrated, but he went a year and surpassed 300 grand.